This is one of the most frustrating games that I have ever played. And to be honest, I fucking love it. If you haven't played East 2, you're missing out, right? So we just did a video talking about East Chronicles 1, and now we're going to be talking about East 2 because this is a direct sequel to East 2 or East 1. They were made within a year apart, and it originally released in I think it was 1988 or 1989 on the PC 88. And for the time, the game looked fantastic compared to like a lot of other games around that era, the 8-bit era. This game releasing on the PC 88 was able to release with much more powerful hardware than you would find on the Nintendo NES at the time. And my god, it is a beautiful game to play. And the reason why it's so frustrating to me to play this game is not really so much the mechanics, but the boss fights. The boss fights in this game are so ridiculously over the top and just, it's a very different contrast to the first game. The first game's boss fights were, oh man, they were frustrating as well. I'm not even gonna like set that aside. But the first game, the differences between the first game and the second game is the second game adds some new stuff to it that the first game didn't have. For example, the second game adds a magic mechanic to it. And while it's a awesome mechanic, if you're going from playing the first game to the second game, you kind of forget a little bit about the magic, and so you don't realize that some bosses you have to kind of use fireballs to beat them. And man, I'll tell you, when I played this on live stream, I was so frustrated fighting a boss because I wasn't doing that much damage to it. And it wasn't until I realized I need to shoot fireballs at it that I was able to beat that boss. And man, I was ready to walk away. This boss was taking me, uh, it was taking me at least 2 days to figure this out. To like, why am I not doing any damage? Did I miss some items? Did I not upgrade my gear? What's going on? But no, it was because of using magic. East 2, I love it. I love it. I will say it over and over. This game is fantastic. You need to play it, especially if you played the first one. The music is incredible. It carries over the music from the first one, adds new tracks, and just the score in general from this game is phenomenal. The score from the first game was fantastic. The second game just even better. And the second game honestly feels like a longer game than the first one. The first one felt more like an introduction, which, I mean, technically kind of is because it is a first game in the franchise. But the first game felt like a shorter introduction to what the series was going to have. And so the second game feeling like just a much more grand scale game and a longer game without having to worry about bad pacing. You know, like a lot of games, especially sequels, when they start making the sequels bigger and bigger than the first game, they typically have the problem where when they make it bigger, they tend to add a lot of padding to it, which then drags the games down. You find this happening a lot in modern games, more so than older titles, because older titles didn't really have storytelling elements that you would have in newer games. So because of that, this game doesn't suffer like you would see in a lot of newer games. On top of that, like when I say that this game added a whole bunch of stuff to it, they added different things like you can change your character Adol into like a what's called a roo, which looks like a bunny kangaroo type of thing. And you do that because you get to interact with the monsters and you actually like get to find out like how they're feeling, which is kind of weird to think about. But you go and you talk to the monsters to find out secrets, and if you kind of want to sneak by them instead of fighting them, you know, because there's some points in the game that you get to that the enemies are way overpowered, and the only way to sneak by them is to use that magic ability. It's a cool concept that they added. You don't find that in any other. Well, do you find that in another one? You know what? I don't remember. I'm gonna retract that statement. But it's a cool mechanic that they added, and the roos become a recurring animal that you see in some of the other games as well. The character of Adol in this one, he continues his journey from the first game after he collects the Books of East, and honestly, the story starts to unfold a little bit better in the second game. The boss fights, like I said, were frustrating. There was one boss fight which, after fighting not the first boss, but after fighting that boss that I was just talking about, where you have to fire fireballs at him, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna shoot fireballs at him again, but no, no. This time the fireballs don't do any damage. My regular attacks don't do any damage. What the hell is wrong with me? What is going on? I have to charge my fireballs. The game doesn't tell you this, by the way. This game does not hold your hand and it is very unapologetic about it. It does not. It is very unforgiving. Okay? So it does not tell you charge your fireballs because you have to, you might need to do extra damage on some bosses. No. You have to figure it out on your own, which I appreciate. Don't get me wrong. I'm okay with that, but this game, I had so much fun playing it. And honestly, it's one of the better ones. And I say that full well knowing there is a ton of these games. As of right now, there are 11 entries in the East series, including East Origins. And out of the 11 games, this one still holds up, man. Like, if you haven't played it, this one still holds up way more than some of the newer ones do. Look, we'll get to the newer ones when we get to there. And I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but East 8, not as much fun to play as this one was. I'm going to say it. It's fine. Hate me all you want. That's okay. But I had a good time with this. And honestly, I recommend you guys playing it. And also, go check out our sponsor, Zero In by Root. So Zero In is an energy supplement that I use, and especially when I have a long day ahead of me, instead of grabbing, an energy drink, which typically has a lot of sugar in it, or, a lot of extra additives. This is all natural. And the amount of caffeine that's into this is the amount that you will find in a cup of coffee. But that's not what does it for me. What does it for me with Zero In is the vitamin D. Turns out I was vitamin D deficient because I'm indoors a lot. I go to work, I'm indoors. I go over here and I stream, I'm indoors. I'm editing, I'm indoors. And taking Zero In by Root helped me tremendously with that. It gave me a lot more energy throughout the day without having any crashes because of the way that this works. It lasts for about 5 hours and you don't feel it kick in when it starts working, which is one of the best things about it. You don't get the jitters or anything like that, and you don't get the crash that happens when you're drinking other energy drinks. So I highly recommend you check out the link down below, Zero In by Root. Thank you guys for watching, and go play East 2. Do yourself that favor. I know it's not an in-depth review. I just wanted to get my thoughts out of my head for that because, man, it's such a good game. Go play East. Do yourself a favor. If you're a Zelda fan especially, go play those games. You'll feel right at home. You go do that.